All right, the next cut we're going to learn is going to be the increased layered straight up haircut. The thing about this is you want to make sure that you have your client low so that you don't have your arms above your heart too much. I'm going to lower my client down just a smidge more so that I can make sure that she's low enough for me to provide the service for her without doing any damage to my body. Those are things to really think about when you're offering your services. You want to make sure that you're ergonomically correct so that you're not doing damage to your body so that you can stay in this industry a long time. All right, so I need to make sure that I have her head on straight so you guys can see here. All right, so the one thing about this haircut is I want to make sure that I take 4 equal parts. So I'm going to again divide my head into 4 equal sections, apex to ear, and I'm going to section it right out. Before I know how short I can take this, I need to take into account the overall length of my client's hair. So I have the section from the front. I know I can take some off there because everything's going to be cut right at the apex at the top of the head. And I'm going to take my overall length and make sure that that doesn't meet. And I'm going to take a section by the ear, make sure that doesn't meet. Pretty close on the section by the ear, but I'm actually taking it from the top of the head. So again, I'm going to find the apex, which is the highest point in the head. I'm going to go straight down to the center of the ear, section that into 4. Again, center nose to nape, right in the center of the back of the head. That's going to be one section. I'm going to clip that up, and then I'm going to clip that front section up. Again, making sure that your client's hair is nice and wet. I've done all my safety and sanitation. I disinfected my workspace before I started it. I did my client consultation sheet where I figured out the diseases and disorders if she had any of those on her head. Checked the density, porosity, elasticity, checked for diseases and disorders so that I know that I can actually work on my client before I even draped her for this service. Clip those up so that I have a nice workable space to work with. And my last section. Making sure that my partings are nice and clean. I'm going to pull a little bit back into the front. From those 4 sections, I'm actually going to take off a little triangle. So I want my triangles to mirror each other. So I'm going to make sure I do one straight across the back. I'm going to pull that out of the way, and then I'm going to clip that section up. I can do this as I'm sectioning right away, or I can get her all sectioned into 4 and then go back and do that. So the one thing about this haircut is still a solid form. This time it's straight up instead of straight down, so it's going to be 90 degrees straight from the center of the head. If it's coming from down here, it's considered like a 180, so it just depends on where you're at in the head, what the degree is. So I need to find where my little point starts back here. I'm going to go directly from that up to the front section, end up with 2 little triangles in the back of the head, 1 in each section. From there, I'm going to take and I'm going to mirror where this triangle is and take it to the front middle section. So I'm going to use this little back parting where it was, take it to the middle of this head, to that middle parting, get it out of my way, make sure that my part line is nice and straight. And then I have one from the back and one from the opposite front side that I can actually pull my guides from. Oops, got my guide. always be conscientious of where you're throwing the hair around if you're throwing it in your client's face. Definitely just for safety and sanitation, but always protecting your client at all times. Notice I have hand sanitizer right close to me in case I would drop anything on the floor, or I sanitized my hands right before I started working with my client. So then I end up with this diamond on the top of the head. So this diamond becomes my guide, with those 4 triangles become my guide, but this diamond is how I decide how short I'm going to cut the hair all the way around. I want to make sure again that the hair is nice and wet. So if it starts to dry out, I want to make sure that I go back and get it wet. I'm going to hold it up. Now I know where I can go to because I checked. I'll cut it straight across. Find my guide, again straight across. I want to be conscientious of where I'm cutting so that I'm not cutting back past my knuckle here so that I end up cutting myself. And then to cross check it, I'm going to stand to the side. I'm going to pull it straight up again, and I'm going to cross check. Now remember, everything should come up for that very first point in the apex. So I have a diamond in the center of the head. And now I'm going to divide that diamond back into my little triangles. So from the apex, straight across the apex, from my side part, so straight across from my side part to the side part, and then I'm going to divide it again from the nose to nape part, right to the top of the apex. Divide that out. So I end up with my 4 little triangles all over again. Now if you want, you can clip those out of the way so that they're not in your way while you're combing. However, it's kind of nice to see where you're going. Everything is cut standing behind your client's head. So you want to make sure that you're utilizing your mirror so that you know that you're pulling the hair all the way back up to that center point where we started. So back up to the apex, I'm going to take a small parting straight across the back of the head, and I'm going to make sure that I hold that hair straight up. So I have a nice parting towards the back of the head. From there, I'm going to comb the hair back up to my first initial guide, and I'm going to cut the hair to that guide. If I'm not sure if I have my guide here, I can always take the hair the opposite direction and see if I can see my guide. So I want to make sure that I comb it straight up so that I can see my guide. So again, I can go back in the opposite direction and check to make sure that I can see my guide. I already cut it to that, so it's already gone. So I'm going to take the whole entire section. I'm going to hold it straight up from the center of the head. I can comb on top, but then I also need to go back and comb on the bottom because I want to make sure that I get all of that hair in there. Hold it straight up, cut to my guide. I'm going to follow through with the entire section at that point. So again, I'm going to take another parting off. And hold the hair straight up to that guide. And see I have a nice straight part across the head. Nice clean part off. I'm going to hold all of that hair in my hand again, keeping the right separate from the left, combing everything up to that section at the top of the head. Everything goes back up to that apex section. I have a couple hairs to cut and that's it. I'm going to take another parting off. Nice, clean, straight parting. I'm going to grab that section I just cut, all of that hair. Remember, this is just like your solid form straight down, except this time it's in the opposite direction. It's going against the way that the hair lays. Again, I'm going to hold it straight up to that apex section and cut. I have a couple hairs here to cut. Otherwise, it looks like I have everything. So if that's the case, I'm going to take this whole section from the bottom hairline all the way up and see if there's any little stragglers that I need to cut. So grabbing it all in my hands, pulling it all the way up to that apex section. I'm combing all the way down to the scalp, combing it up, checking for any stragglers. I need to even it out. This is the time to even it out. All right, that side looked good. If I want to cross check it, I can go back in vertically, hold it up, make sure that it's nice and even, straight across the top, and have a nice haircut. Again, I'm going to check another part of the section to make sure I brought it all up. Looks nice and good. So from there, again, remember I'm standing behind my client. I'm going to go ahead and cut the back left side. Remember, I already have my guide, but this time I have some guide from the right side that I can use as well. Drop that clip out. So I'm going to take a little bit from my right guide, just a smidge, doesn't have to be the whole kit and caboodle. Comb that front piece up so that I'm not pulling it into my section. Again, I'm going to take a nice clean parting, combing all the way down to the scalp. I want to make sure I get it from all sides so that the hair's straight up. Again, I'm going to pull it all the way back to that apex section, and I'm going to cut to my guide. Working my way across. If something falls out, that's okay. That just means that it didn't meet. So again, taking a nice clean parting straight across, side to side, using a smidge from my right side that I already cut, taking all of this hair into that section and pulling it straight up. I want to take it all the way back to that apex. My last section, I need to make sure that I didn't comb it back to me, because if I did, then I might not have it straight. Finding my guide, cutting off all those little stragglers. And I'm running out of hair to cut. So I'm going to separate my right from my left again. This time I'm going to comb the entire left side up, making sure that I have all that hair in there, all the way down to the nape, all the way down to the lower hairline. Making sure that I get it nice and smooth, nice and straight, all the way down to the scalp, pulling it straight up. Again, I want to concentrate that am I truly pulling that up? I'm looking in the mirror that time to make sure that I'm in the top of the head into the apex. Again, I'm going to hold it straight up. If there's any little stragglers that I need to cut, I'm going to take those off. All right, so now I'm going to cross-check my right and my left back to make sure they're even. So I'm using my guide from the right and the left. It comes all the way up and it's straight across. I'm good. Now, again, standing behind my client, looking to make sure they're not tilted one way or the other, I'm going to cut the back center of it, or cut it up to the center of it. So I have my guide already parted off. I have my little triangle section up here. Take a nice clean parting straight across. Again, a nice clean parting. I'm going to pull it back to this section. I'm going to take a smidge of my right section just because I want to make sure that I'm keeping it real and keeping it nice and even. Again, my partings need to be straight though. So this time I'm holding it up, bringing it back to that center of the head. So I already have some hair that doesn't meet here, so I need to find out is that truly the section from the back. I'm going to comb up my little diamond here, and I have this little section. So I'm going to pull that out. find my guide, and I'm going to cut it to my guide. Now my arms are up, so this is a cut that I don't want to do too long. I would want to lower my client down. Again, taking my little triangle, I'm going to take a smidge of my little back section here, pulling it all up to that apex, cutting it, standing directly behind my section, cutting it to my guide. My client has a little bit more hair in the front of her head, so she's meeting my guide. Holding it straight up, making sure I can see my guide, cutting it to my guide. Again, straight up, making sure I can see my guide, cutting it to my guide. Making sure I'm not over directing too much from that center. And then with the small portion they have left, I'm going to take all of that, the smidge of my back section, and I'm going to comb it all up to that center, and I'm going to cut it back at that apex. Holding it up. Well, nothing's meeting. I just have a couple hairs there left to cut. All right, so I'm on to my last section. Now I have a front section to match and a back section to match. So I'm going to use that when I go ahead and part off my sections. See, I have my little guide here yet, so I'm going to make sure I have that. Taking a little bit from the right, a little bit from the back, and using that as my guide to make sure I have my hair cut nice and even. Again, standing behind the section that I'm working at, find my guide within the haircut, cut everything to my guide. Dropping that down, but keeping this chunk in my hand because I need that. That's my guide. Taking that parting. Again, standing behind my client, making sure I'm holding everything up to that apex, cutting it to my guide, which I'm standing right there and I should be able to see it. If I can't see it, I probably have too much hair in my hand, so I really want to be conscientious of how much hair I have in my hand. This way, not across, because you have to have all of that in your hand. But is it too deep? Is the section I parted off too deep? Again, taking a small bit from the back, small bit from the right, making sure I'm combing it all the way up, cutting it to my guide, all the way down to the scalp, holding it up in the center of the head, and cutting to my guide. And my client's getting a little dry. I'm going to get her all wet again. And take my section, keeping that right and that left so that I know where my apex is. So I cut it to the center of the head. And I'm going to take this whole last section, combing it up to the center, back to that apex, and cutting it to my guide. Making sure I combed all the way down to the scalp so I don't have peaks and valleys. Little guide on the side from the back, little guide on the other side from the front right. Now I'm going to just take a cross. I'm going to make sure that my guides are nice and even again, work my way up. Got some little stragglers that are loose hairs. Making sure that it's nice and even. Taking my front section, again, making sure that it's nice and even. And I'm going to do the same thing from the front to the back. So combing everything up, making sure that it's nice and even. Working my way down the head, taking nice straight partings, combing it all the way up. Making sure that it's even. The client doesn't have any hair here. Right with my guide. And do it on the other side. Again, making sure that the hair is nice and even, front to back, right to left. Nice cut. All right, then I'm going to comb it down and make sure I'm back into my 4 quadrants again. Nice even. I'm going to check my perimeter to make sure that my perimeter is nice and even. If I cut any little holes or any little pieces, comb down. Client's just losing her hair left and right. Make sure I didn't cut any holes. If I did, I would want to go back and refine the perimeter so that I can actually make sure that she's nice and even when her hair is just hanging straight down. So I'm just going to comb it straight down, make sure that it's nice and even around the perimeter. I would, if she was in my hydraulic chair, I would be pumping her up and down. I'm going to lift her up just a smidge so you guys can see. So I want to make sure that I check my perimeter. Comb her nice and down, make sure that I don't have any holes or cut any chunks off or anything, because the hair was longer on the sides than it was around the rest. So far, so good, as I'm working my way around the haircut. All right, she looks good. And that would be our increased layer straight up.